So let's begin. We have to start today. The session is on rights. Session is on rights. The first thing we have to start is rights. First thing I would like to ask, what do you understand by rights? Can anyone tell me what is rights? Yes, you know. Other people, can you tell me what is rights?
An authority of sorts, sir.
An authority of
Sort, SORT, as an authority of sorts.
authority of sort. Okay. Authority of what? Okay. Anyone else? What is rights? What do you think about rights? चलो कोई नहीं देखिए राइट्स इज बेसिकली योर क्लेम अगेंस्ट द स्टेट what are rights? These are your claims against the state. Why? Because as per the contract called as Constitution of India, as per the contract called as Constitution of India, we all understand the word constitution. Constitution is a contract among all of us. So as per the contract, we said if you will have all the power, the part of the state is bureaucracy, politician, judiciary, executive. We don't know executive, two part, temporary and permanent, judiciary and legislature. All these three are the part of the state. Everything is a state. Police is a state. Judicial functioning is a state. So what individual have? Nothing. So we said, as per the contract, if you have all the powers, then we will also have some rights. So rights are what? These are your claims against the state. The general logic is claims against the state. Now rights are of various types that we have to look at. Rights, so if we classify rights, then general classification of rights is we have two kind of rights. One is constitutional, other is legal, and another category you can create is customary. One is constitutional. Constitutional rights are given directly by the Constitution of India. Okay, for that you will understand 6 rights: right to equality, right to freedom, and all. We will discuss each right separately. Right to equality, freedom, against exploitation, etc. etc. There are 6 rights. Legal rights. These are the rights which are given not by the Constitution but by some statute. For example, we can say आपका जो right to information. Right to information is a statutory right or a legal right as per the legal rights. Basically, these are the rights by a law. There's a right to information. It is a right that you have to take information from the state about its functioning, about anything that is within the ambit of the law. This much is clear. So we have constitution right granted by the Constitution, legal right granted by laws, anything else, customary rights. There are certain rights which becomes a part of the customs, but within customary, some are legally enforceable, some are not. Say for example, one right you can assume is marriage. Under marriage, currently it is not required to register a marriage. As per, if you have a marriage as per Hindu conventions, that is not compulsory to register. It will be considered valid. If you, though state encourages you to register, but not very compulsory. Some state like Punjab and all, they may have made compulsory, otherwise it is not compulsory. So customary law is clear, which are out of customs, which may have the force of law or may not have the force of law. Okay, for example, you can a law, a customary right which does not have a force of law. For example, the right of lineage. मान लीजिए all of the time the woman has to go to the husband's house. It is not written anywhere. I'm talking on legal terms. It is not a law written either in constitution or a legal or a enforced legal law. But it is generally assumed that it is a right of a male to have a female in a home after marriage. So customary law not having the force of customary right, not having the force of law. This much is clear. Within constitutional right, there are two kind of rights. One is fundamental rights, other is other constitutional rights. Now, this is the definition we need to understand. We understand constitutional right means rights given by the Constitution, and other rights are in the constitution. ठीक है, other rights are in the constitution but not in the chapter of fundamental rights. So constitution, all these are constitutional rights. Within constitutional right, you have fundamental rights and other rights. This much is clear. Now, what is fundamental rights? These are some rights which are considered so sacred. These are the rights which are considered so sacred to your existence that without this, you cannot assume a life of a human being. For example, right to speech. The things that separate humans from animals is we can communicate by our speech. It does not matter, for example, you have never met an American in your life. If today I have a conference call with an American, you can speak with him or her. So that speech makes you human. A dog in India cannot communicate with an American dog, of course. Is it clear? So fundamental rights are those rights which makes you human, which is essential for your humanity, your survival as a human being. Clear? Baki other rights are also important, that is constitutional right, but they are not sacred. They are not very essential. For example, right to property. Other rights, maybe we can take an example as right to property. We will separately discuss this in detail, but for now, do understand that right to property is not a fundamental right. It is a constitutional right under Article 300A. Under Article 300A, you have right to property. It is not a fundamental right. This is the one distinction, philosophically speaking. Now comes to the legal terms. What is the biggest difference between both? The biggest difference is for violation of fundamental right, you can directly approach Supreme Court. For violation of fundamental right, where you can go? Supreme Court of India. For violation of your other rights, you have to go high courts first. The first difference is philosophically, fundamental rights are very fundamental for your humanity, for your existence as a human being. That is your fundamental rights. Next is other rights. लाइव रिकॉर्डिंग डिस्टर्ब करते तुम लोग हैं? चलो ठीक है. एनीवे ओके, तो ये कट हो जाएगा, कोई इशू नहीं. So let me repeat again. We have rights as fundamental rights, constitutional rights. We have two variety: fundamental rights and other constitutional rights. Fundamental rights which are very sacred for your existence as a human being. Other rights are also important, but if they are taken, it is not like you will cease to exist. Example: fundamental rights may your right to speak, and other constitutional right may right to property. For example, if I take away your property, of course you will not die. Okay? It is not like if your property is gone, your wealth is gone, but you will not die. But if I take out your speech, then your essence will go away. Okay? Another difference is fundamental rights ke liye, for the fundamental rights, you can directly approach the Supreme Court of India. That's you can understand the significance that our founding fathers and mothers associate with fundamental right, that they think that it is so special that the Supreme Court of India must be a guardian. You can directly approach to whom for fundamental right? Supreme Court of India. For other rights, you have to approach high courts first. Okay? That's the importance of fundamental right. This much is clear. So we have understood how long. Let me summarize. Rights, claims against the state, and rights, claims against the state. We divide them as constitutional, that is given in the constitution; legal, given in some laws of parliament or the state legislature; customary, which are out of customs, which may have force of law or may not have force of law. Within constitutional, we have two rights: fundamental rights, which are guaranteed by the constitution through Supreme Court; other constitutional rights, which are not guaranteed by the constitution through Supreme Court, but you can always approach high courts. हाई कोर्ट क्या नहीं, सॉरी, आई डिड नॉट गेट द पॉइंट. क्या? हाँ, बिल्कुल मना कर सकता है. यस, ये यही मना कर सकता है। भूल गए जल्दी, आर्टिकल 32 में भी डिस्कस डिफरेंस बिटवीन द अपील ऑफ रिट पिटीशन ऑफ हाई सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड हाई कोर्ट. High court can say no. High court can say go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court cannot say no. Why we did this? Why we separated this? देखिए, for fundamental right you can approach both High Court and Supreme Court. That's true. But the major responsibility is on Supreme Court of India. And why we gave this distinction? So that we can assure that it is a Supreme Court's duty. Remember, that it is a Supreme Court's duty to protect your rights. If you go to, for example, High Court, please enforce my right. High Court can say not interested. But if you go to Supreme Court will never say not interested. It has to take your petition. However, after hearing the petition, it may stop the petition if it is not legit. यही तो मैं बता रहा हूँ भाई. Actually you came 10 minutes after. That's the problem. Initially we discussed this. Again, we have constitutional rights. Constitutional rights are written in constitution entire. Within that we have two categories: fundamental rights and other constitutional rights. For fundamental rights are sacred for your existence, and for that you can directly approach to Supreme Court. That's the power under the constitution. And Supreme Court has the responsibility to protect your fundamental rights. Second is other constitutional rights. These are rights like right to property, for which you have to go first to the High Court. Okay? This is the difference. I hope everyone is clear. People online, you are clear also? Cool. So this is, we have understood. First we understood what is rights, then we understood different types of rights. Now we will understood some essence of rights. You have some facts about right. Essence of rights में हम समझ सकते हैं. Number one, that some rights are against the state, some are against other individuals. That is, some are against state and some are against other individual. Example, right to untouchability. Sorry, right against untouchability. Right to untouchability नहीं होता. Right against untouchability. That is a right enforceable against everyone, state and individual. Within that, we will also understand a case study of SC/ST Act. समझेंगे वो when the time will come. So untouchability is a right which is against untouchability. You have a right which you can enforce on anyone. It is not like the state, for example, a police officer discriminate you on your caste. That you are SC/ST, you cannot come to the police station. No. Even an individual if says that you cannot come to this well and cannot drink water from here, it is against a violation of article. We will discuss that article. But basically, अभी confuse जाएंगे सब लोग. ठीक है, basically untouchability. Is it clear? So some rights are against the state, some rights are. Second, some rights gives responsibility to state. Some rights give responsibility to state, while some rights limits the power of state. Let's take an example. Freedom of speech and expression is a right that limits the state. Government of India cannot suppress your freedom just because it does not like it, or government of any state. But some rights give responsibility to the state. Again, untouchability. Untouchability is a responsibility of the state to ensure it is not practiced. It is a duty on the state. You have to ensure that no individual in India practice untouchability. So clear? Some rights are against the state, some rights are against individual. Some rights empowers the state, some rights disempowers the state. ठीक है? Some rights are collective and some rights are individual. Again, let me take an example. Again, same example we will take, freedom of speech and expression. It is your individual right. For example, the sati practice. Sati practice, I hope in modern history you will study. There was a sati practice in India, in some parts of India. R.M. Roy, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, he voiced against sati practice. Even his own family objected to that. The collective wisdom of that time was that sati was okay because it was the part of customs and cultures. But R.M. Roy's thinking was it is not okay. So he exercised his freedom of speech to voice against that. It's individual against the system, the entire society. Example, again example, with the what is the name of that Bengali freedom fighter? Pandit Ishwarchand Vidyasagar. Yes, I.C. Vidyasagar. I.C. Vidyasagar, basically what he said, he promoted widow remarriage, a custom against the society but of the individual. It is a woman's right to remarry, even if the society considered it wrong. So is it clear? Some rights empowers the individual against the entire society, against the entire state, against the entire everyone. Clear? Some are collective rights. For example, rights of minorities we will study. Minorities' rights are collective right given not only to one person but to entire minority, be it lingual. And remember the word minority we will discuss later on. It is not religious. For example, a Tamil person in Delhi is a minority. A Hindu in Jammu Kashmir is a minority. So under the constitution, the rights that a Tamil person, a lingual minority in Delhi will enjoy, same kind of special rights a Hindu present in a Hindi speaker present in Tamil Nadu will enjoy. We will discuss that in detail. What are those rights? So is it clear? Some rights are for collection and some rights are for individual. So everyone is clear in this few essence of rights?
Sir, can you just repeat the responsibility to state and limits the power of state?
Second point.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We discuss untouchability. It is a social evil. Okay? It's a social evil. It's still practiced everywhere, especially UP Bihar. I know personally. Apart from that, baki to pata nahi. So basically, in that places, it is the constitution placed a duty on the state that you have to ensure untouchability is not practiced. Imagine if somebody says that this is a common well of the village, a SC person cannot drink water from here. Then that SC person, what that SC person will do? That person will go to the police, to judiciary, to army, whatever may be the case. And that person, the police, which is a part of the state, is supposed to fight on behalf of that SC person against the entire village. So it's a duty. That person's right to right against untouchability is a duty of the state. Another is limiting the power of the state. Same example, freedom of speech. If tomorrow the Delhi government brings a law that slanging Kejriwal is a punishment by death, for example, just because Kejriwal does something you do not like that, and you slang him, and he will punish you by that. So it is what? It will suppress your freedom of speech every time. It will suppress your right to liberty and all. So it is a limitation of the state. A state cannot make a law like that. It cannot prohibit you from saying anything against the anyone. Is it clear, everyone? Is it clear, Ram?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Chalo. Understanding these few points, and we will again. Another essence is fourth point, that there are limitations on the rights. यही लिख देता हूँ मैं fourth point. Limitations on rights. The fourth point says this, that all the rights are not absolute. They have limitations. Now, you have to tell me what is rights we discussed in the starting of the class. People online, what is rights?
Claims against the state.
Claims against the state, okay. And there are limitations on the rights. And who have to decide what are the limitations?
The judiciary.
Judiciary does not decide. Judiciary role is not that, na? State, of course. Judiciary may decide, not always, but that is not what judiciary must do. That is a part of the government. But anyway, judiciary is a part of the state. The state decides. Now, this is the problem. That rights are a claim against the state, and the state has to decide what is the limitations. And that's why we have Supreme Court. That's why in the starting I said fundamental rights are guaranteed by the Supreme Court of India. Constitution of India provides the responsibility. Supreme Court is the guardian of fundamental rights. It's responsibility to protect your fundamental rights. When we will discuss in detail judiciary, that it has failed multiple times the liberties of individual, but later on it right-tracked itself. We will understand everything. To clear a very peculiar problem we have, and that is the thing. We all can agree that there should be limitations on rights, but the question is, who will limit that? That is a question everyone is pondering. That's why whenever government brings a law, government says, yeah, we are bringing a law in public interest. But then we say, we know what is your public interest. Your public interest is your self-interest. You want somebody not to criticize the prime minister, chief minister, anyone. And if somebody criticizes, you put sedition on them. So you say it is limited because you are spreading hatred. No, bhai, that person was speaking against you, be it any CM, PM or anyone. Is it clear? So it's a very peculiar situation what we should do. Nikita is saying constitution. Nikita, the thing we will understand in a bit is constitutions are amended by the parliament, and parliament is controlled by the executive. India has a peculiar system. Anyway, but clear hai, we have a dichotomy, we have a problem here. There is no clear answer to this problem. We will explore what we can do about this. Everyone, please tell me the essence of rights is clear. Cool. If that is clear, then we will. Then now we will start our main collection. That is fundamental rights. First is Article 12. Not much you have to study. You can read by yourself. It defines the state. Basically, Article 12 defines the word state. On whom these articles are applied, basically. So how you can understand? I told you the essence. Anything that is of government in origin. So state ki definition we understood na? State is a territory with a population and a sovereign. That is state. And a state has component like judiciary, executive, and anything. CBI, state. Judiciary, state. Legislature, state. Municipalities, state. So all these structure, basic rule I will say is any body in which government has a majority stakes, that is 50% and more, is government, more or less. However, this rule strictly does not apply. I am giving you a general rule. There are numerous exceptions, which we will discuss as the time will go on. General rule is clear. Anything in which the government has more than 50% stake is largely state, part of the state. Okay? Disputes we will understand later. So Article 12 basically does nothing. It defines what is state. Next is Article 13. Article 13 deals with a doctrine that is called as doctrine of, can anyone tell me what is that doctrine? Favorability, exactly. Judicial review is also part of that, no doubt. But it deals particularly with the doctrine of severability. Now, what is this? Basically, for example, I bring a law. I means the parliament I'm talking about. We all understand parliament is a law-making body. The two purpose the parliament has to do is, the two work the parliament does. Yes. The two things parliament does is, first, make laws to govern the entire country, and second, to keep an eye on the government on behalf of the people. These two things they do. Anyway, so what happens? Imagine if the Parliament of India brings a law on, say, for example, farm laws. Let's take example, farm laws. Farm laws Parliament brings, people protest against that. Then Parliament amend the farm laws and says anyone who criticizes the farm laws will be considered as a seditious person. Means farm laws deal with farm, and in that law, it also write a line that anyone opposing the farm laws will be put under the charges of sedition, desdroh. So in that, what happened? Somebody will go to Supreme Court. I just told you the Supreme Court has the responsibility to secure your rights. You will go to Supreme Court ki bhai this law is violating fundamental rights. Supreme Court will look at the law. Then as per doctrine of severability, there are two components of farm laws we discussed. Fictional farm laws, not the real farm laws. Fictional farm laws. There are two components. First is with respect to farms, and second is with respect to speech. Supreme Court will say, bhai, this farm laws deal with two things: is farms and speech. Farms component is okay, speech is not allowed. You are restricting people's speech. People's right to criticize farm laws is a violation of your freedom of speech under the Constitution. So, using the doctrine of severability, Supreme Court will uphold this part of the farm laws and annul this part of the farm laws. This is called doctrine of severability. Means the part of the law which is inconsistent with the fundamental rights will be declared null and void. Not the entire law, only the part. This much is clear. This is severability. And to apply this all, a principle that is derived directly is judicial review. We will deal judicial review in detail in judiciary. Right now, we will just understand very basic idea about it. To do this, to decide what is good, what is bad, what is according to the Constitution, what is against the Constitution. For that, the judiciary must have some powers, and that the name of that power is judicial review. Under this, what the judiciary does is, judiciary can look at the actions of anyone. Remember, people often think judicial review apply only on executive and legislature. No, it applies on everyone. Judicial review applies even on judiciary itself. As per judicial review, the Supreme Court can review the verdict, the pronouncement of lower courts as well, including high courts, to see whether they violate fundamental rights or not. So to club, judicial review is the power of judiciary to review, to relook the policies of government, the acts of legislatures, the actions of any executive body, the orders of courts, to see whether they are consistent with the Constitution or not. And if they are not, then the Supreme Court will use the doctrine of severability and will annul that part. Clear? Everyone clear? Online people especially.
Yes, sir, clear.
Okay. So we will start with Article 14 now, the proper fundamental right. Before that, please write all this. लिखिए. So we have written anything? कुछ नहीं लिखा. Okay, start writing. Make the notes now. Start writing. Heading is rights or fundamental rights chapter. Chapter heading is fundamental rights. Within this, write down rights are a claim. क्या हुआ? Rights are a claim of an individual. Rights are a claim of an individual against the state. Claim of individual against the state, comma, as agreed by the people, as agreed by the people in a contract, as agreed by the people in a contract known as Constitution of India. Known as Constitution of India. Next, put down a subheading. Subheading is classification of rights. Subheading is classification of rights. Within that, draw this basic thing, then I will dictate each and everything. Rights, and then divide constitution with two arrows, fundamental and other rights, legal and customary. Then I will dictate. As soon as it is done, please write down. No, I'm not audible. Everyone has done that. Actually, one mistake took place. We had to do India in the Union first. After preamble, we had to do that article 1 to then. We missed that most important part. करवाया नहीं था starting में. I forgot because that has to be done even before citizenship. It had to start from there, then citizenship has to come. Chalo, I skip that. Okay, write this much, and iske baad we will start that part, and we will continue again fundamental rights. ठीक है, later we will resume it back. अच्छा, यहाँ तक लिख लिया? Please write down. वही मुझे याद दिलाता, किसी ने नहीं बोला. अच्छा हुआ you told me. Okay, cool. Please write down. पहले फर्स्ट हेडिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट्स. Constitutional rights. Constitutional rights. Within this, write down. These are the rights. These are the rights guaranteed by. These are the rights guaranteed by the Constitution of India. Guaranteed by the Constitution of India. Full stop. They are further subdivided. They are further subdivided into two parts. That is fundamental rights and other rights. That is fundamental rights and other rights. Okay. First, number one, within that, write down fundamental rights. Within constitutional right, number A is fundamental rights. Within this, write down FRs, that is means fundamental rights. FRs are the rights. FRs are the rights which are crucial. For the existence. Which are crucial for the existence of an individual. For the existence of an individual as a human being. As a human being, full stop. They are guaranteed. They are guaranteed by the Constitution. They are guaranteed by the Constitution through THROUGH. They are guaranteed by the Constitution through the Supreme Court of India. Through the Supreme Court of India. क्लोज है ना. क्लोज इकोनॉमी नहीं, क्लोज क्लासरूम है. वेंटिलेशन हमेशा होना चाहिए, अदरवाइज ये प्रॉब्लम आती है. हाँ, सो क्या लिखा लास्ट में हमने? कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया. विद इन ब्रैकेट राइट डाउन आर्टिकल 32. आर्टिकल 32. We will know article 32 when we will do article 32. For now, know this. ठीक है, full stop. The Supreme Court cannot deny. The Supreme Court cannot deny the enforcement of. The Supreme Court cannot deny the enforcement of fundamental rights. Fundamental rights, full stop. B. Within constitutional right, B में लिखिए other constitutional rights. Other constitutional rights. Within this, write down these are the rights, these are the rights, comma, which are important, which are important for the individual, which are important for the individual, but which are important for the individual, but they are not, but they are not as critical, but they are not as critical as fundamental rights, but they are not as critical as fundamental rights, full stop. For enforcement of these rights, for enforcement of these rights, comma, an individual has to approach where? High court first. Has to approach high court first. Full stop. Actually, remember this. Earlier, as per original constitution, you could have approached both Supreme Court and High Courts. But later on, Supreme Court gave a judgment and said that the High Courts are constitutional courts as well. So rather than coming to me first, go there first. The Supreme Court created this criteria that you have to go first to High Court. Constitution does not provide this criteria. As per Constitution, you can approach to both courts. But as per Supreme Court, you have to go first to High Courts. ठीक है. इसमें there are, remember there are exception to this principle also, which we will do later. ठीक है, वो PIL वाला जो होता है. Okay. For example, full stop. For example, right to what? Right to property. Within bracket, Article 300A. Article 300A. Full stop. Up next, second one is legal rights. Second one is legal rights. Within this, write down. These are the rights. These are the rights entrusted. These are the rights entrusted with legal protection. Entrusted with legal protection, comma, not the constitutional protection. Legal protection, comma, not the constitutional protection, full stop. However, every law or policy must run subordinate and in consistency with the Constitution. Consistency with the Constitution, full stop. Next point, these rights within legal rights. Next point, these rights are provided by the competent legislature. Provided by the competent legislature. Within bracket, you can write Parliament/SLA. Parliament/SLA. Bracket close, full stop. For example, RTI. For example, RTI. Okay. Next, just write a line about. Third is customary. rights. That is customary rights. About this, write down. These are the rights. These are the rights driven by customs. These are the rights driven by customs with or without. Customs with or without any force of law. With or without any force of law. Full stop. For example, under Hindu Marriage Act, you have something called as right to co-partner. Co-partner. Basically, it says is you can force another party to live with you. For example, if a woman runs away from your house for any reason, then you can go to the High Court to ask the High Court to issue a petition, to issue an order to order the woman to come back. This is a right. However, it is being disputed because, for example, she is running for from an abusive husband. That person enforces the right, but of course, the court will look. ऐसा नहीं है court is blind. Of course, the court will look at your track records, na. But the problem is domestic violence is often very secretive. Freedom का है, but ये भी तो legal. This is legal right. अब dispute, if you go to high court, for example, a male go to high court for enforcement of this right against a woman. Both can go to high courts. It is available for both, but usually males enforce that. If he enforces that, so it's a legal right under Act of Parliament, and she has a right to freedom of speech, expression, everything under Constitution. So there will be a fight between legal and constitutional right at that point of time. Again, it will depend highly on circumstances. For example, if the person is proven abusive, so उस case में forget about enforcing your legal right. No court will issue that order. But if something genuine cause is there, if you can show that it's a genuine problem, of course court will order. But again, देखिए problem क्या था, domestic violence is highly secretive. 90% of time woman does not report it. So उस case में that there may not be any precedence of reporting. तो उस पर क्रिटिसाइज किया जाता, बट इट इज अ वेरी गुड एग्जांपल टू अंडरस्टैंड अ लॉट ऑफ टाइम दीज राइट्स फाइट विद ईच अदर अ लॉट ऑफ प्लेसेस. क्लियर? ओके, so we have written types of right. Next is before essence, write the philosophy of rights. Philosophy of rights. We discussed this earlier also, पर लिख लीजिए philosophy of rights. क्या है फिलोसफी ऑफ राइट्स? बताइए. तुम्हें नहीं बता? बताया नहीं. राइट्स इंडिविजुअल ओरिएंटेशन के हैं, वेस्ट में पैदा हुए थे, वही तो है फिलोसफी. अरे हाँ, लिखा इज अ डिफरेंट थिंग, बट वी हैव डिस्कस मल्टीपल टाइम्स. फिलोसफी ऑफ राइट में लिखिए दैट राइट्स, फिलोसफी ऑफ राइट्स में राइट डाउन, राइट्स have their origin, rights have their origin in the philosophy of in the philosophy of in the philosophy of liberalism. ये बीमार करके मानेंगे ऐसे, सभी को हो रही है लोगों की वजह से. क्लोज्ड एनवायरनमेंट की प्रॉब्लम आ रही है यहाँ पे. कोई प्रॉपर वेंटिलेशन होना चाहिए. हो सकता है ठीक है, अच्छा है, सब लोग पीते हैं, ये तो अच्छी चीज है. झूमे भी हो गए थे पी के. philosophy of right में what we have written, could you repeat the line? Liberalism, full stop. The liberals emphasize on the protection. The liberals emphasize on the protection of individuals from the state and the society. कहाँ it originated? State and society. It originated in the Western world. It originated in the Western world. Okay. I have discussed multiple times. This is the problem we face in our society. I always take an example for a person, a lot of students who come from the true India, I will call it, the rural India and other. For them, Delhi is a kind of cultural shock. When they come and they see the the level of individualism, because that's the difference. In rural area, in a village, everyone know each other. In Delhi, even your flatmate does not know you. You look at that, Delhi mein, you may have been living for years here. Even your neighbor may not know you. Why this difference? That is more pronounced in societies, the gated societies. Though in colonies it is less pronounced, but in society it is even highly pronounced. Why? Because it's a individual based living, where you have an individual who has a living. Baki rural area mein you have a collective living. And why this difference? Because this is a imposed system. I told you, in the starting of the polity class, the values that most of the values that we study in polity or economy or anywhere, they basically evolved in the West. They evolved in the West in a very peculiar context. Later on, they were imported to the East. And initially, by our founding father, most of the constitution is Western ideas. Then over time, for example, today you have the influence of social media, and all. For example, the celebration of Valentine. It's not Indian festival. It is celebrated in India. How it came to be celebrated in India? Because it came from there. Intentionally or unintentionally, it came from there. So a lot of things we do is Western origin. But remember this, every new thing brings two kind of people. One who support it, one who criticize it. So Valentine came to India, for example, the logic of Valentine, there are people who rejoice it, mostly in urban politics, urban policies, and there are people who criticize it. Yeah, certain people who got employment during the month of February, we all know those people. Okay, otherwise, for the entire year, they remain unemployed. In February, they get very active because we don't have it, you can't have it. Anyway. वो भी है, but from if jokes aside, the real reason is those people are embedded in collective living idea. But the people who celebrate they are more evolved in individual living. For those people, a woman smoking is a big thing. Forget about smoking. Without a ghungat is a big thing. But in Delhi, you will find a woman smoking and all things at every corner. Nobody cares. The difference of this individual living, where an individual wants to be something, वो अलग है, and the collective living, that's different, that's native. That was in India. This individual living later on came, and that's why this individual living is concentrated in urban areas, the metropolis like Delhi. It has not reached to or infiltrated to rural areas. And one of the example is fundamental rights you have in your constitution. They are a direct example of individual. Fundamental rights talks about individual, his right to speak, her right to drink, his right to go roam, his right to speak, these kind of rights. जबकि आपके अदर राइट्स, वी विल डिस्कस दैट आल्सो, दे आर कलेक्टिव. मानिए सोसाइटी, आई होप एवरीवन फैमिली और योर पेरेंट्स से समाज क्या बोलेगा. I hope a lot of you people are here for prestige. The element of prestige. Why you want only the top most job, not the other jobs? Element of prestige, because society values it more. You are here to become an IAS because society values it more. Clear है? ठीक है. This is collective versus individual living. Of course. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are two kind of output. One who support, one who criticize. Of course, you have the right. No one can stop you. The same. I even say the Nupur Sharma case we discussed. No, she said something. She has all the right to say those things. But it's her choice. If you don't want to listen, close your ears. First thing. Second thing, she did not say anything that was false. However, her intention was to insult. all those things you can find in any book, academic book, but nobody is burning those books or nobody is saying against those books. Why? Because there it is a fact, not insult. For example, if I call you a chota vyakti, if I call you by love, chota vyakti hai tu, you will be like, ah, theek hai. If I call you by demeaning you, then you will feel insulted by that term. In both cases, I use the same word, but the way I spoke, the intention I had, changed your reaction. तो बात वहां आती है, but still I believe the people who are criticizing, for example, Valentine, are equally right. कहीं भी आप हाई कोर्ट में, ये फंडामेंटल राइट नहीं है ना आपका. आप यू हैव फंडामेंटल राइट टू क्रिटिसाइज वैलेंटाइन, but you do not have fundamental to beat people who celebrate Valentine. You can put up an article or you can print poster that Valentine is Western value, we do not want it, paste it everywhere, go to the people and make them convinced कि भाई please do not follow these Western values, they are deteriorating you. But beating them, imprisoning them, this is not your right. हाँ, दो लोग देखिए शादी करवा दी, इसीलिए ज्यादातर लोग इसका फायदा भी उठाते हैं, जानबूझ के किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति के साथ जाते हैं जिसने मना कर दिया और बोलते हैं बजरंग दल को आ जाना. ठीक है, तो शादी हो जाती है. अरे यार हमारा टाइम ओवर हो गया. एनीवे, फिलोसफी ऑफ राइट इज रिटन. प्लीज राइट डाउन द लास्ट थिंग, देन वी विल मूव ऑन. एसेंस ऑफ राइट्स, प्लीज राइट डाउन द नेक्स्ट हेडिंग. एसेंस ऑफ राइट्स. Within essence of right, quickly write down point number 1. Some are against the state. Some are against the state and some are against individual. Some are against the state and some are against individual. Next point. Some gives duties to state. Some gives duties to state and some gives limitation to state. Some gives duty to state and some gives limitation to state. Next, some are collective and some are individual. Last point. The rights are not absolute. The rights are not absolute. ठीक है, full stop. So the state can place. So the state can place reasonable restrictions. The state can place reasonable restrictions. Full stop. However, what is reasonable? However, what is reasonable is highly disputed. What is reasonable is highly disputed. हाँ, क्या चीज? National interest, the most abused concept in modern history. Anyway, so this is the class. Tomorrow we will do India and the Union first. ठीक है? I missed that. That has to be the beginning. Actually, we had 2 polity classes ना. There were 2 parallel subjects. अब एक क्लास हो तो you can remember कि polity में ये चल रहा है. अब 2 चीज याद करनी पड़ती थी. Anyway, we will do first in tomorrow's class India and the Union, and then we will resume our fundamental rights from article 40. नहीं, 12 से. We have not written 12 and 13 ना. From 12 we have written very basics of fundamental rights. Everyone clear? People online, any question you have in mind? कौन सा? बोला तो है मैंने कि गवर्नेंस का तो बहुत सारे लोग हैं कह रहे. चलो, with that note, have a nice day everyone. We will meet tomorrow for India and the Union. And who has raised this hand? पता नहीं. हाँ, क्या कह रहे थे तुम? कब लेना ऑप्शनल क्या?